Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Tour Pro Talks. We've had a bit of a break for the last few weeks, but now we are back with a bang and with a very special guest. I am absolutely delighted to introduce my guest, Charles Shima, today. Charles Shima is, of course, the founder and chief storyteller of Tourifique, so there is no one better to talk with us about the power of storytelling in travel and tourism. Welcome, Charles. How are you today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me, and everyone, thank you for as well tuning in.
Yes, welcome, of course, to our wonderful community of guests. Do say hello, and we'd love to know where you are in the world as well. So do comment if you're with us. Also comment if you're watching on the replay afterwards. It's always lovely to find out where our guests are from around the world. So we have limited time as usual. So we're going to get straight on to asking Charles questions. I've just remembered, I've forgotten to introduce myself. I do always forget to do that. I'm Genevieve White, travel, tourism, and copywriter, and I'm very happy to be here today. So, Charles, let's get started because I've got lots of questions to ask you, and I'm sure our guests will also have some questions and things they'd like to ask you about. So, seeing as today's session is all about storytelling and the power of storytelling, I wondered if we could maybe begin with your own story. Could you tell us a little bit about your personal story and how you got to be to where you are today?
Absolutely, that was me in a moment. Recording storytelling is always with me. I was recording this, but just me. Don't worry. So my journey into travel and tourism industry wasn't, I would say, like straightforward. It kind of happened, and it was shaped by movement, culture, and mostly the curiosity that I always have. You see, I was born in Kinshasa, Democratic Republic of Congo, and we moved back to Rwanda, where my parents were from, at age 7. Then I left again when I was 16, 1994, over 31 years ago, during the genocide against the Tutsi. After that sad time, and eventually I arrived in Canada at age 19 via Kenya, Nairobi. And so, and then from Canada, actually, I've lived in over four, four cities and 3 provinces. So travel in many ways has always been part of my life. Not to mention since I arrived here, I've traveled in many places around the world. So it's not just across borders, but through different identities and also perspective. Now, my own entry in the travel industry came from a deeply personal moment. So what happened was, over 5 years ago, I was looking to go back to Rwanda, where I'm from, after 24 years. And the first thing I did was go online. I was trying to research for things to do that reminded me of me growing up, to do with the culture, visiting cities and those type of things. But platform like that was, I mean, then, even when now we have one, it was hard to find a single platform where I could find every sort of non-Safari, because there's an obsession with Safari when it comes to the continent of Africa. And so I was like, well, something has to be done. And so that was the seed that planted what started as Anheza. My startup used to be called Zanheza, and over time evolved into Tourifique, which is now really an Afrocentric focused platform, AI powered. As we know, that's the future for things to do worldwide.
Brilliant. And like so many of the best business ideas, it comes from you like finding having a need of your own and then figuring out how to make that need met for yourself and for other people as well. So brilliant. That's a lovely story to start with. Thank you, Charles. Let's say hello to a couple of our guests. We've got Suzanne from Greater Boston in USA. Hi, Suzanne.
Hello.
And we also
Hi. Hey.
a friend of yours. Okay, super. Okay, so that was great start by you telling us a little bit about your own story. What about let's move on more generally to talk about storytelling in travel and tourism. I know that this is your big thing is storytelling. You said before we went live there that storytelling is for you, it's just present all the time in everything you do and every thought you have. Why do you think storytelling is so powerful in travel and tourism?
Wow, that's a very good question. So I would like to first talk about the definition of storytelling because
Hmm.
that's key, so that we know that we are all in alignment. What is storytelling? So, by definition, storytelling is the art of translating emotion as well as experience and the perspective into something that can be shared, something that moves people. Um, Backstory: growing up in Rwanda, there was always stories around the fire. Love that. And we all start thinking, Kera habayeho, once upon a time, really. It's that storytelling always resonate me. And through words, whether it was a grandma, a grand aunt, they would tell us things from the past. Incredible. So that's how that's why it's always with me. Now, in travel specifically, if you think about it, that's what we are doing, connecting that to the definition. So travel isn't just about visiting a new place. It's about trying something new, hearing a different language, witnessing tradition, right, and feeling something shift in you. And that's why I speak in English today because Rwanda, up until 1994, it was a francophone country. I actually made a decision to speak in English when I was sitting in Bukavu in 1995. That's in the East, in the RC, and hearing these people speak this language that sounded so cool. That was English. And I was like, I have to learn this language so that I can not only interact with the travelers, but when we travel, so how do we communicate that? How do we essentially capture what we see, feel, and smell and touch through storytelling? It helps us relieve a memory, invite others into our what we just lived, right? That specific, and inspire them to go out and create their own. So that being said, it's what turns a trip into a narrative, a tour into a moment, a destination into a connection. And most importantly, storytelling in travel makes room for meaning. It allows cultures to speak for themselves, people to be seen. And we are doing that with a Tourifique, as you will sort of hear in a moment. And travelers, not just to consume, but to engage.
There's so many strands with what you say there. And I think what really strikes me is you've got the universality of storytelling. So, on
Mhm.
some level, for a story to work, it has to appeal to some shared experience that we have as humans. But then it's also, the difference, because one culture will have a very different take on a story from a different culture. So it's about, shared commonalities, but then the little differences as well, which makes it so interesting. It's that tension, isn't it?
No, yes, it is. I mean, funny thing is, as a child, I loved listening to Michael Jackson. I didn't know what he was saying, but I'm told that was one of my favorite artists to this day. He spoke in English. I had no idea, but I don't know. There's something about what he said that we could, I and also my friends in Edinburgh, we could kind of connect to. Yeah, so we always find the university. Maybe it's maybe the tone of the sort of voice, but there's always a storytelling because they don't. If you follow the words the way they are sort of structured, there's always that element of universality, and it stays with you. You remember.
Yeah, absolutely. Just another comment, and from one of our lovely audience, it's Kirsten from Scotland saying she loves a personal story. And Kirsten, I know you're a great storyteller as well. Okay, so on to another question. I wonder now, Charles, if you could maybe share any particularly powerful examples of storytelling that you've encountered in the travel and tourism industry?
Wow. Yes. Let me tell you about our video that went viral on Tourifique.
Mhm.
Still going up, over 2.3 million views. And so that is a video about Afro Indians that I created. I was actually sitting somewhere here. I just told my wife, hey, I just have this sort of a concept. We have to do it. I'm just going to do it this way, this way. I want the world to know that in India, population, that they have also Afro-Indians. They look like me, but they are Indians, right? And I just created a content. It's on our TikTok, and so 2.3. And so why did that work? It's because the story was one, it was authentic, it was educational, and simple. Simple. So just don't try to cut it. It's a very simple, straightforward, with a goal to show people some their stories. Now, that's about Tourifique. Another second, an example that I always keep in mind happened here on LinkedIn. If you're on the LinkedIn, I don't know if you ever saw this. There is this post that went viral of the crying CEO. Does anyone? You can kind of comment if you read that story if you're on the LinkedIn. But actually, that fellow. So all he did was just he made his story personal, vulnerable, and deeply relatable, right? And everyone was talking about it. And then you will say, well, but we're in travel. How can I be vulnerable? Yes, you can. I mean, every story, there's always an element to it because himself, I mean, he was going through a tough time for his startup where he had to let people go. And then so he made that into, I don't know how you cry and take a picture, but he managed to do that. And that's just capture that sort of the emotions. So those are two that I can think of. There are many, of course, but in
Mhm.
this both, situations, what we see the common thread is what? Emotion. It's emotion. And so when a story makes something feel, when it makes someone feel something, whether it's curiosity, pride, sympathy, empathy, or even anger, especially, then that's when something sticks.
Yeah, so it's the emotions, and I think the simplicity thing is really important as well, because I sometimes think people get quite confused and maybe
Mm.
even intimidated by the term storytelling, because they start to think about Shakespeare and how it has to be like a story like they might have had to write at school with a beginning and a middle and an end. But what you are talking about, it's more moments that maybe reveal a story behind them. And it is just about that simplicity and sense of emotional connection, isn't it?
Yes, Shakespeare is a legend. I remember learning Shakespeare, and my English was still brand new. But anyway,
Yeah, well done. And it's not an easy read for anyone. Okay, so my next question is probably a very topical one, but I think we need to touch on it anyway. And I think it would be good to speak about AI. You know, everyone's talking about AI at the moment. And I'd really be interested, Charles, in your take on AI and storytelling. Do you think there's any particular challenges or opportunities that AI presents when storytelling with, travel and tourism?
I mean, AI, first of all, is a game changer. And quickly, just to address the AI, there are many types that we can use. I am obsessed with AI in storytelling because whether it's generative AI, whether it's voice and an audio AI, like such as the script that we use in terms of scripting, it's definitely a game changer. And I just want to quickly, before I address the sort of those challenges, or maybe we should just address that. But I think the biggest challenge of AI, first of all, is AI itself. I recently watched a beautiful video of a food and beverage an experience you can enjoy in Rwanda, and it's just beautiful. They're showing. I love to see something traditional, nicely presented. However, the lady who made a friend of mine, if she's watching, I love it. But it's just the use of that AI, and AI cannot pronounce certain things in our language well. It just kind of it, it made the story about off-putting sort of, because it's like, yeah, I can see this amazing traditional food, but there's this lady with a British sounding an accent. You know,
Just
it
didn't.
needed my type of accent. So, AI itself. So visually it was powerful, but the narration with AI just didn't match the flavor, right? We're looking for that flavor, tone, and soul of the story. So, and that's the risk. It's when tech becomes too noticeable, it can break that emotional connection. But at the same time, opportunities are limitless. I mean, think about it. Think about it. I mean, I can create content using sort of a script that is almost at the professional level that I couldn't have done myself, right? So opportunities you can, that's also scary, because you can really create pretty much anything in storytelling if you are eager to do so. And you can do this at scale and at no costs. Unfortunately, some jobs will be lost. We can't help it, but that's the right way in.
Yeah, but I mean, it is saving so much time, especially for people who've got to market, their business while, leading their business and doing their jobs and so on. Charles, just to say very quickly, you've mentioned a few different examples of videos and social media posts now. Just this is for our audience, really. So what I'll do is I'll get any links from Charles after our conversation, and then I will, when I write my newsletter summarizing the talks that Charles and I have had, I'll put the links to the content he mentions during our discussion, so you'll be able to have a look at it. So don't worry if you're trying to search for these things now. We'll make sure you get easy access to them. So welcome again. If you've just started watching and thinking, what am I watching? I'm Genevieve White, and I'm talking with Charles Shima about how you can create scroll-stopping stories. Okay, so let's carry on with some more questions, Charles. Let's think. Okay, I've got a question here, and this is maybe about storytelling with a specific purpose. I'm wondering how travel and tourism businesses can use storytelling to be good ambassadors for their local areas. I wonder if you've got any thoughts on that.
Yes, I think I spend a lot of time looking at travel content from
Mhm.
all over the world. I am obsessed with, especially the tourism boards, you name it, from anywhere in the world, really. But recently, I've been looking at Canada because of the spirit of travel in Canada. And so, what I tend to notice is that um, the focus is not on the people in the story.
Mhm.
And that's the sort of the ambassadorship. You have to make the travel ecosystem, your travel ecosystem, anyone near you, be part of the storytelling. It's not just about the backdrop. It's not just about, oh, look how this pretty is. Because by now, because with all this content generated, we may have seen the location in so many different, um types of imagery. But now what's missing is the story. And that's what people sometimes will have to think about. The people, the people, the people. We have AI, we have the people. So make everyone around you ambassadors, part of that story. Anyone, a traveler, if you think about a tour guide, a chef, your staff, anyone can be part of the story. And there are some actually banks that are doing really well where they have their staff be part of their reels. It's like, wow, did they sign up for this? But that's essentially the idea. So, yes, travel companies have to make their ecosystem part of the storytelling. And that's key. And actually, this actually reminds me when I started my journey with Zanihez and now Tourifique, our slogan was or still is see Rwanda through our eyes. and that's over 5 years ago, to signal that there will be a very element of showing our stories.
Mhm. Yeah, that's. I think that's a brilliant answer, and I love that focus on people, because when we travel, it's people that stick out in our minds. You know, ask anyone who's had an amazing travel experience, and it's stories about people that really, you know, make these precious memories. So definitely, that's a really great tip for anyone watching, to try and include people in your stories, and it will just say so much more about the culture and the type of experiences that people might have. Um, okay, let's talk a little bit more about some of the stories told through Tourifique. And I'm just wondering if you could maybe shed a little bit of light on how these, how you make sure that these stories respect and preserve the authenticity of the local culture.
Absolutely. So, as a platform, Terrific, one of the biggest challenges that we are bringing supply partners from all over the world. I mean, now we are focusing in North America, South America. And so, if I'm working with a supply partner, let's say in Colombia,
Mhm.
it's not just the story of Terrific per se. And that's the beauty and the challenge of what I am building. And that what makes me unique is that wow, you have all these amazing stories, but then each destination we are going to have on our platform for tours, events, and activities, we spend a lot of time learning about that specific what's the story here. And in communicating with our supply partner, we are very selective. I'm
Mhm.
proud to say that most of our supply partners, I personally, as the founder and CEO and chief storyteller, I actually know, I have met them or we speak continually. And I'm always, my question is always, what is it about your destination? What is it about your tour that is not seen or felt? That's what I'm looking for, the storytelling. We spend a lot of considerable time. Any tours you will see posted in, it is curated. It's not just boom, boom, done.
Mhm.
And I said that essentially our secret sauce. It's really spending time and make sure that supply partner are aligned and understand that storytelling element. And we are very intentional because we say Afrocentric. Is there any Afrocentric? And oh my goodness, it's been quite an amazing journey learning about like different areas. Like even now in India, people now know that in India you can go and have an Afrocentric thing to do by visiting the cities. Those are the Afro-Indians.
It sounds like an amazing research process. So, is a lot of your research through just talking to people and asking questions? Do you do a lot of on the ground research, visiting the places you're writing about? How does that work?
Yes. It is a combination of before you talk to people, you need to have a topic of what you're going to be addressing. But I am passionate about what we are building, and that's a starting point. I'm interested in digging further, and I know what I'm looking for based on my travels. I like to tell people, name a country in the world. I probably have a friend there, a real friend, not a Facebook friend. So that brings me a connection, a real connection to that place, because I am naturally interested in knowing other cultures. In fact, when I was growing up in Rwanda, one of my hobby back then, we didn't have Facebook. It was going at Kigali International Airport to meet anyone who just landed in the country. I was interested. And the moment we connected that one, I was like, "So, what do you eat in your country?"
Oh,
Food.
brilliant.
Yes. Once
Yeah.
we shared the meal, because my father did the same. Anyone who came um, to work, and we will have them for dinner at my house. We always invited people to come and eat our sort of our traditional meal. So you can never go wrong when you talk about food. It was an introduction to someone's culture and so on. But yeah, there is a lot
Absolutely.
of research done by reading stories and connecting with people, and yeah, and we go from there.
Brilliant. Yeah, what you're saying about food there really resonates with me because I think that, if you're ever stuck for storytelling ideas, food is always a way in because it's something everybody's interested in. Everybody will have a favorite comfort meal or, their favorite food that their mum made or whatever. It's just such a good way of bridging the gap between people. Um,
Absolutely.
Let's talk a little bit about the future now and about trends. Because the kind of landscape of travel and tourism marketing is changing all the time. There are all these new trends. Do you think that trends are something that affect storytelling? And if so, what do you think the future trends of storytelling are going to be? And I'm very sorry, my neighbour has just started drilling next
Yes.
door. So I hope it's not too disturbing for you.
No, okay. Yeah, I mean, while I can predict the future, but some trends are short term. Like if you are on TikTok, like I am, and we should be on TikTok, by the way, even if you're B2B, and people say, why should I be on TikTok if I'm B2B? Because the people who watch they also own those companies. But that being said, some trends are short lived, some are long lived, but we definitely have to keep up. And so AI will continue to definitely revolutionize how we do so. Get on it,
Yeah.
embrace it. Just like we moved from using typewriters. I don't know how old anyone is watching right now, but I remember typewriters to computers. And that was a shift, right? Typewriters to computers. So get into it. Audio storytelling podcasts such as this one. And most importantly, we are seeing the rise of the traveler as a storyteller and also as, so remember that, it's now, moving into that, not going to a travel agency like back in the day. And it's all, yeah, happening completely offline. So this is happening really fast, of course, and we have to keep up.
Absolutely.
Another good example to watch on TikTok is Duolingo. So my kid told me about Duolingo, what they do on TikTok. Duolingo and the Washington Post. They know how to keep up with what's going on and create content around it visually, but we can learn something from it as well.
I'll need to go and check out Duolingo on TikTok. I haven't done my Spanish lessons for quite a while. Brilliant. So there's lots of really great points and things to take away from there. That travel is always adapting. The way we travel is adapting. The way we market travel experiences are adapting. And then that kind of goes along with this idea of storytelling and, what makes us connect emotionally with humans. That's perhaps more constant, more, it's been the same from the beginning of time, but maybe so we're telling similar stories, but through different media, perhaps, and in different ways.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do we
Okay.
have any questions? No questions. I was actually
The audience are
checking.
being very, very quiet today. I don't think we do have any more questions. But if you're watching and you want to ask anything, we definitely have time to fit in a question. We'll see if anybody comes with a question, and meanwhile, I'll just slip in a quick one. Charles, yeah. How about just some advice if anyone's watching today and thinking, right, okay, I want to go away and start telling stories now, have you got a kind of simple, like beginner's tips for someone who wants to just go away and start telling stories about their destination?
Don't overthink it and get started. If you started, start. If you have started but you're stuck, keep going. But do not overthink it. Like really, don't overthink it. As Nike said, just do it.
I think that's excellent advice. Really brilliant advice. And I think that's probably what stops a lot of people from, telling stories and just writing what they want to write or saying what they want to say on social media. Okay, there don't seem to be
Yeah,
any.
but also I need to add, just do it. But of course, there is a technique you have to learn. Maybe talk to some of us, but just do it. It's by doing that you get to learn the process and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, also, yeah, by all means, talk to people who might know what they're doing and know their craft. But if you're waiting for something to be absolutely perfect, it might never get done. So it's better purely to put something out, even if it's not 100% perfect, and then you're learning by doing. Would you agree with that?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely I can relate to that in so many ways. Just very quickly, I know we are sort of ending this. I want to tell just to give you an illustration of this. Last year in Spain, there was this sort of massive anti-tourism campaign, like go home, go home, go home. And there is a city. I don't know if there's someone who speaks Polish. I'm going to mispronounce this. I know there's this city, underrated city. It's called Shenzhen, I believe, in Poland. They produced a reel. Someone is working in the city. There's this sort of writing on the wall, tourists go home, and they're holding a poster saying tourists come to Shenzhen, Poland. Magic. See, it's simple. There's just someone working, holding a poster, and the graffiti. You see, and that's the with me. You see, it's simple but to the point.
Absolutely, completely
Yeah.
memorable. Now, Alex has slipped in a question, so this will be our last question of the day. If traveling is about learning the culture of a destination, why do you need an Afrocentric experience? Shouldn't it be a destination-centered experience? I'd like to hear an explanation. It's not that I disagree. Okay, so that's an interesting question. What's your take on that, Charles?
It depends how you look at it. First of all, a destination is part of the Afrocentric. So what we are doing is here is sort of highlighting those unseen things to do. Just like why do you go to Paris and eat your croissant, or why go to Japan for the culture? So it's a similar idea, but it's highlighting those things to do that don't usually get or are not massively known. Like if I ask you, Alex, what do you know about Palenque in Colombia? Maybe you are a traveler, you may, but most people may never have heard of sort of a Palenque. And there is a massive, really good story to be told of the Afro descendants who went to Colombia and built their city, and they have culture, food. And so the way I like to say is just like reggae, just like Bob Marley made the reggae, introduced it to the mass, or the Beatles, you can say, in the rock and roll. That's what we are doing with the Afrocentric experience.
Okay. Good. Thank you very much. And thanks for your question, Alex. If any of you have any more questions, I'm sure, Charles, if you're watching on replay, for example, I'm sure if you post them underneath this event and tag Charles, I'm sure you won't mind interacting with and answering any questions. And also, I can put any of these answers to any further questions we get in the newsletter, which will be coming out next week on Tuesday or Wednesday. So, yeah, all that's left for me to say now is, Charles, thank you so much. It's been such an interesting discussion about storytelling, and certainly inspired me to go away and have a think about how I use storytelling in my own work. So thank you for joining us today.
Likewise, thank you for having me. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We appreciate. And if
Yes.
you have any questions, I guess, yeah, feel free to ask.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Thanks again to our wonderful audience, and we'll see you again soon for another episode of Tour Pro Talks. Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.